welcome to FriYAYs with Kyla and special guest Dom. So Dom is a happy success coach. She has 10 years of personal study in human potential and success. So exciting. She was in the Peace Corps in Costa Rica. She has a master's from Georgetown University in international affairs. And she also previously worked for the State Department. She just came over to Korea in July and super excited to have her here. Welcome, Dom.
Thank you.
So we're just going to get started with our questions. Oh, I just wanted to share everybody with my little Twin Star t-shirt that I actually bought for my niece, but then I decided that I would wear it. Okay, so we're just going to start with our questions. So Dom, you're a happy success coach. Can you tell us why you left your stable government job and you went into the crazy life of coaching?
Sure. So coaching has been something that I've always done since I can remember. I mean, like all the way back to high school, I was always that person that was, asking folks what they want to do in their life, what types of dreams they like. I was just curious. I'm a very curious person. I like to understand people, see what drives them, because when I see a spark in someone, like I just want to pull it out of them. And it's just a natural thing that I do that I've always done. And so when you ask, like, why did I leave a cush job with the State Department? And definitely, like, and I've been working all of my life to be this international affairs professional. And I realized, regardless of how much I studied a topic, I really, really, really love helping people. And I think I have a gift in just bringing that out of people, bringing their potential out by asking them the right questions. So when I pivoted in my career, going from Georgetown education and international affairs and, talking about policy and being, this DC person, I realized that wasn't the real me. And although I could be that person and I still do, I still care a lot about social issues. It's not the space where I can reach my full potential. And so recognizing that, I decided to have a discussion with my spouse and say like, hey, I really want to try out coaching and see where it takes me. And I think it can work in our lifestyle. And I can take it anywhere. I could coach a bunch of people from anywhere. Like, thank goodness for the internet. Thank goodness for YouTube and Facebook and all these great channels. And yeah, and then I just went all in. Like I just made a decision one day and just said like, I'm just going to do it and see what happens. Because I knew deep down in my heart, as much as I could be a great resource and a great leader within the State Department, it wasn't the best use of my talents because I could do so much more because of the person that I am. And so that's why I decided to change gears. And here I am talking to Kyla on my first live session, and it's awesome and exciting, and it really like makes me it inspires me. Like every day that I'm doing this work, I know it's important, and being part of something bigger than myself is what I want. That's what I've always wanted in every job that I've had and everything that I've contributed to. I always wanted to be part of something bigger.
That's amazing and so inspiring. I love the part of being part of a greater story, being part of something that's larger than you. I think that's absolutely related to happiness. So, um, you recently launched a booklet called The Five Elements of Success. It's beautiful, it's colorful, it's well written. Hope everybody can get their hands on it. Could you talk a little bit more about that and like how that came to you?
Yeah. So just a little bit of background, like personal background for everybody. So my wife and I, we've been married for about, gosh, 2011. So about 8 years. We'll be celebrating our 8 years of marriage this December. And through that time, we had twin daughters 5 years ago. And that was right around the time that I graduated from my program at Georgetown. And I was kind of like on this trajectory, launching my career, you know, taking all the knowledge that I've had in international affairs and applying it to my first job. And in that first job, I was working 50, 60 hours a week, like nonstop, deadlines, like middle of the night. And just, I was just grinding for a good year. And in that job, I moved up rather quickly, and I liked that idea of like getting recognized for the work that I was doing. But at the same time, we had just had twin daughters. So taking care of newborns and at the same time trying to build myself in my career, it just wasn't meshing well. Like I was burnt out, I was overwhelmed, but I wasn't recognizing that myself because I just did it. I'm like, I'm just gonna do it. And I didn't even see it that I was like breaking down until my wife said like, hey, you need to slow down. Like you need to take a step back and ask yourself. And my wife is like my original life coach. Are you spending your time the way you want to spend it? And that question, like, just like my mind exploded. I'm like, well, what do you mean? Am I spending my time the way? I'm like, of course I am. Like, I worked so hard all of my life. Like, I went to the right, you know, undergraduate program. I went to the right graduate program. I did the Peace Corps. Like, I did all these things to get me to this point in my life. Like, I have to do this. I have to continue on this path because what else? What other options do I have? And so, her seeing me like just struggle, she's like, Dom, you can always do other things. I'm like, well, what do you mean? and so she kind of planted the seed in my head saying like, hey, you know, you're entrepreneurial, you like doing projects, you have a lot of ideas, like why don't you go do one of your ideas, like go explore it. And I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah, just go do it. And by happen chance, like the stars aligned. My spouse had an opportunity to go work abroad in another country. And I had an opportunity to go back home to California with the twins and start up this idea that I had, this startup idea that was geared towards the international aid industry. And through that process of being a stay-at-home mom, while also trying to be an entrepreneur, I started to read a lot about success. I started to read a lot about leadership. I mean, I always read these books, but I never really dove into it completely until I had that 1 year of just like, I'm not working a 9 to 5. Like I can dedicate my time to growing myself. And from all of the things I read, all of the books, all of the magazines, all of the interviews I've watched, like these were the 5 things that really came out to me most and that I implemented in my own life and that has brought me to where I am today. Like I don't think without these 5 elements, I wouldn't be a coach. Like I wouldn't have decided or had the courage to say no to a job as a diplomat. Like and it takes a lot of courage, and it's almost like you have to be at a place in your life and have enough knowledge to make that decision. And so these 5 elements, and I'll briefly talk about them if that's okay with you.
Yeah,
Kyla.
sure.
Just very briefly. And if any of you like want to download a copy, just go to my website and you'll get it in your inbox. But yeah, I mean, they're very simple, but they're hard to implement because of all the different types of messaging that we get in society about like what success means, what happiness means, you know, all of these different things that the world wants us to be, but maybe we don't want to be those things. Mm-hmm. And so I got caught up in the rat race of like, I want to be this and I want to have this title and that, but I realized like, that's not me. And being okay with that is the first big step. So the element number 1 is be yourself. Like when you're at your best, when you're in the flow, when you're doing something that you purely enjoy, like who are you? Who's that person? And so I identified in my life, like starting from middle school, like what were all the different activities that I did where I felt like I was just myself. And it was always me organizing an event, me talking in front of an audience, me helping people or coaching them to be or to make that decision that would push them to the next level. And yeah, just guiding and mentoring people. Like I thrive off that. I get energy from that because I see that there's a need for it. And I have a very positive personality. And so that mixed with people with that need, it's just natural to me. So element 1 is like, be yourself, do the things that you love doing, that only you love doing. Like, don't think about other people. Like it's about you. The second element is having a healthy body and a healthy mind. So the healthy body part, I was never like a super gymaholic or anything, but I knew that in order to be the best person that I could be, my body had to be healthy. I had to have the energy, and that means getting good sleep, eating well, not drinking as much alcohol as I did in my 20s, and just taking care of my body, because you don't really notice it, but like they say, by the time you're in your mid 30s to like early 40s, 50s, like everything, all the little decisions that you make every single day, like it adds up. And then by the time like you're in like your mid 40s or 50s, it catches up to you. So it's really, really, really critical for you to make good decisions about what you feed yourself, and also hydrating yourself, because that catches up in the long run. And same thing with healthy mind. Like I never really thought about this. I'm like, oh, there is a lot of negative news out there. And so feeding your mind with good, positive, inspirational information is just like feeding your mind good food, feeding your body good food. So as much as there's negative news out there, like try to close the door on that and watch more happy things.
I have
Watch
a
more
nerdy
things that
statistic
inspire.
on that.
Yeah. Oh, go for it.
So for every one piece of positive news, there's 48 pieces of negative news.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah. So it's hard. Like you have to be very intentional about what you watch and what you read. But make good choices, because that puts you in a positive state for helping you achieve your goals. Um, the third thing that I love, love, love that I learned from this personal development professional, Darren Hardy, is it's about educating yourself. And he really broke it down into like, what are the books you have to read? What are the courses you have to take? Who are the people you have to meet to take yourself to the next level? And I never really organized like my learning in that way. So I would just like, oh, I'm going to grab this book about like eating healthier, or grab this book, but then being structured about what you're learning and being methodical about it, huge results, huge, huge, huge results. So that is definitely something that if there's anything that you want to learn in the future, like go sit down. What are all the top 10 books in that area, top courses, and who are the types of people that you can meet and network with in your area to kind of socialize that learning for yourself. So it's not just in your head, but it becomes part of your speech. It becomes part of your actions. The fourth thing, and I have to attribute this to the fourth element, I have to attribute this to my wife. Your time should equal your values. So when I look at my schedule back like 5 years ago, like 19 hours out of, or 18 hours out of the day, I'm like focused on my career. And, the rest of the time I'm just like trying to like make it through the night with like feeding the babies and all this stuff. And I'm like, that's totally unbalanced. So I know that like for a lot of folks, once you start, you have your job and you have all of your other commitments, personal and professional commitments, social commitments, everything starts to add up. And so if you're not being very conscious about how you spend your time, people will spend your time for you. So that's, you have to be very conscious of who you choose to hang out with, what you choose to do, if you want to go a certain direction in your life. And finally, the fifth element, be around positive, growing people. This by far is one of the most important elements, because if you're with other people that are growing, you are growing. If you're with other people that are not growing, you're not growing. And so sometimes you just have to step out of your social circle and meet other people, so then you can grow in a different direction. And there was research on this. I don't remember exactly the university that did it, but this concept of you are, the 5 people you spend the most time with, it actually goes out from your network. So different, like various degrees, so second degree, third degree. Like if those people are positive, then you're like more likely to be positive. If those people are eating healthier, you're more likely to eat healthier. So it's not just the circle around you, it's like the ripple effect of your social network. So in a nutshell, I think that was like way longer than I expected, but those are the 5 elements of happy success. And I say happy here because success in and of itself, like what society describes it as, external achievements, you can have all of these things, material success, but if you're internally unhappy with yourself, then what's the point? So progressing in your life, not for perfection, but just to progress towards the goals and the person you want to be in a way that's balanced, so you're not draining and overstressing yourself, is a good way to grow, versus trying to do everything and not having any time for self-care and celebrating yourself.
Yeah, no, I love it. There's so many golden nuggets in that.
Yeah, sorry.
No, yeah. I think a great analogy is if you're drowning and you're trying to save other people around you, including your family, you're all going to drown together.
Right. Right.
You know, it's kind of like you have to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you put it on your kids or other people. Yeah, so I think that's great. And you kind of answered my third question about happiness, which is great. And we also know from research, you know, that we used to think that, you know, if we were successful, then we would be happy. But now, you know, all the research points to you have to be happy first in order to be successful. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome.
thank you. Do you have some questions you want to ask me?
I do. All right. Are you ready?
I am.
All right. So, Kyla, if you were to give yourself, your 20-year-old self, one piece of advice, what would it be and why?
Gosh, so many pieces of advice. But I think one of the major things that I would probably tell myself is to let things go and like not take things so seriously. So I think I spent a lot of my time in my 20s really beating myself up over the fact that I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, which didn't really help that growth part. And it, you know, it goes back to kind of I wish I had had your 5 elements of success in my 20s. But it kind of, you know, it kind of goes back to, you know, having the mindset, having the mental consciousness to really think about these things that are actually really important instead of putting societally imposed values at us first. And I know we talked a little bit about this before our call here, but you know, I think there are certain societal expectations and family expectations of us to be quote unquote successful. And I think in my 20s, I just was not equipped to handle anything, any kind of failure, any kind of mistakes. And I think that's why I'm so passionate now, kind of like you, about creating change around that, you know, and creating positivity around that. And hey, it's okay. It's okay to fail. It's okay to make mistakes. Like it's all about like having a positive mindset around it, right? Because if you don't try something, how are you going to know you don't like it or you're not good at it, right? Like it's not a big deal. But now I'm like, yeah, not a big deal. But like in my 20s, I'd be like, don't talk to me. I'm going to cry for like 4 days and slam doors and, you know, like, so yeah, I'd probably say like, take it easy.
Yeah, no, and I like that a lot because I think growing up, I mean, even for myself, like failure, there was no talk about failure. It was like, no, you just get good grades. Just get good grades, get good grades, get into a good college, get into a good program, like get a good job. It's like good. And there's no talk of failure. And so I think for myself, like when I reflect on it, I wasn't socialized to think about failure in a good way. And so when I did my first startup and I was like failing in my head, I was completely like, oh my gosh, I can't tell anybody. Like, who do I talk to? Like, I have to be a success. Like, no, it's like, I can't, I didn't know how to talk about it. I didn't know how to own failure. Like, how do you do that? And through my research and my study on success, one of the best quotes or one of the best things I learned that I'm going to implement in my own life with my kids is Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx. She talked about her father would ask every day when they got home from school, so what did you fail at today? And her and her brother would be like, oh, I failed at, you know, trying out for the volleyball team. And I didn't make it. He's like, oh, good job. And so in that way, like, you know, her father was instilling a positive association with failure, which I think is great because if you don't try, you don't know. And you see all the other examples in front of you, like everyone taking a certain path. So you tend to follow that path if you don't have any examples in front of you. Other examples are alternatives. So you think that's the way, especially as a young person. And so awesome. I think that's a great piece of advice. to give yourself.
Thank
So
you.
the second question I have is, what do you tell yourself when fear starts to creep in?
Yeah, so I have this actually posted right here by my desk.
Love it.
I wrote a blog post about it. Yeah, I mean, we were talking about this earlier, but basically, when I was working with my life coach, I realized that I had spent at that point 39 years of my life
Mm-hmm.
believing, I had convinced myself so deeply that I wasn't good enough, that anything I did was not enough. So, like, going to Harvard, not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like, doing a TED talk, not enough, not enough. Like everything was just winning all these awards, not enough, not enough, not enough. And so I finally just, had this realization that I had to like unbrainwash myself
Mm-hmm.
from all the brainwashing that had become my childhood and then my adolescence and then my growing up. And again, that's, and then I kind of carry that forward with my clients, like, and I'm their cheerleader, in a tough love kind of way. So yeah, I would totally just tell myself that you're enough, or like sometimes I'll say like, you're awesome. That's another one. Like, Kyla, you're awesome.
You are awesome.
And I just keep saying it. Like you just
Yeah.
kind of have to repeat it
Yeah.
until it's just programmed in there,
Right.
like, kind of like a computer program.
Right. Right.
It's a non-negotiable.
Awesome. 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 And my last question is, when you give your next TED Talk, what topic will you talk about?
Yeah, I like how you say when and not if. That's great. Yeah, I would probably talk about my book. So I wrote, for those of you out there who don't know, I've been working on a book that was inspired by my TED Talk, the two prepositions of with versus at. And I wrote a book about how those two prepositions kind of play out in different aspects of my life, like work, love, life, career, family. So yeah, maybe I'll talk about that.
Awesome.
Who knows? That's a great question. So we are also doing a workshop together. It's called Women Empowering Women. So We Women Workshop on October 24th at WeWork Cognum from 6:30 to 8:30. We'll be posting some stuff on Facebook around that. So would love for everybody to come out.
Same here.
Yay! Well, thank you so much, Dom, for all your time and on this Friday afternoon here, and for like sharing all of your stories with us. Really appreciate and feel so inspired.
Yeah, no, and thank you, Kyla, for the opportunity. For all of you out there, like I just met Kyla a few weeks ago, and immediately, like I knew that I wanted to become close friends with her. So this has been such an honor and a pleasure. So thank you again for letting me, share my story and what I'm up to. And I look forward to seeing anybody who's going to come to our workshop in Gangnam on the October 24th. So definitely tell your friends. And anyone that's interested in working with us, we'd love to get to know you and work with you and help you achieve your dreams.
Yay! Bye, everybody. Have a happy Friday.